Welcome, everyone, to Office Hours, where we answer your digital, technology, internet, and media-related production questions every single day. Alexander Knight is going to be our reader today, but he's having a bit of a technical problem, so Alex Lindsay is going to do our first question. Alex, dive in.
Hi, first up question is from Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas, and Jeff asks, are you aware of any research that shows a negative impact on learning and retention due to poor room acoustics at in-person events, i.e. gymnasiums or auditoriums?
Boy, those are some of the worst. I remember some audio in auditoriums and gymnasiums that was unlistenable. Alex, what do you think?
I don't know if there's any studies. I think that sometimes we get caught up. I find it humorous that folks I'm not saying Jeff's this way, but we hear often academics always want to see a study. They always and people in corporate, where's the study? Do we have a piece of paper that tells us that, wow, it's really hard to understand what people are saying when that's echoing all through the room, or when the audio is bad in the conference room, or when people feel uncomfortable, when we absolutely know that affects how people absorb things. I find it to be fascinating. I know that everyone wants an equation that writes this out, but it is obvious I just feel like sometimes we look for a piece of paper to figure out what most of us can see on the surface. Is that when you force your brain to do a bunch of processing, to hear a bunch of things that are there when they don't hear clearly, when people spend a lot of effort, your brain is a muscle. Well, it's not a muscle, but it acts like one in the sense that it can get tired, and as it gets tired, it becomes less effective. And when we add, the more we add to it, whether it's an online meeting where there's bad audio and bad video, or an echoey room where people are there, it takes more effort to do the basic process. And so what you're doing is you are not spending time listening to the words. You're spending time trying to figure out what the words are. And even if it's only a minor thing where you're filtering it out, it is definitely substandard, and I think that people definitely don't think it matters to their peril, and I get that there's no way to avoid it. But I've been in a lot of places, including gymnasiums, where they just spend a little extra money on making sure that things don't echo, and it's things that are hanging. Many times you don't even notice them. There's a series of, oftentimes you'll see things that look like a series of, they look like wooden slats along the top, but they are actually foam, and they're designed to look like wooden slats, so they just feel like they're part of the system. And they're absorbing an enormous amount of echo, and they work exceptionally well in restaurants, but they also work in large auditoriums, depending on the sizes and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of ways of managing that, and a lot of people ignore it because they care about the visuals more than the audio. And even though what most people are doing primarily in many of the rooms that they're designing is audio. The visuals are great, but it would be nice if we actually understood what people were saying. As someone who has been on the other half of the other side of conference rooms that were designed to look good, it's definitely impacts. There's been times when we've been sitting there, you'll see us just with our head down, trying to figure out what that person's saying. What are they actually saying? We're not even trying to be in the conversation anymore. So that's I will argue that most virtual events where people are at home talking are better than 3 people in a conference room and 1 person remotely, or 10 people remotely. Because those 3 people in the conference room always sound bad.
My experience has been interesting in that respect, too. If I'm present in an official thing in like a gymnasium, because our brains are so good at decoding even bad content, because sound is one of our most important safety considerations, and we've grown up from the ooze, trying to hear whether there's something after us. My brain can usually detect what's going on if I pay close attention. But boy, I take that same thing as a recording and disconnect it from any in-room and visual connection, and I can barely make out what's being said. So it's interesting. When you're there, you can probably hear a little bit better just because all your faculties are working on it. But boy, when it's disconnected in a recording, it can be awful. So thanks for the question, Jeff. Let's move on to our next question.
Next question is from Craig McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts. And Craig asks, YouTube Stats for Nerds has amazing stream details, but I'm curious about what the values in the mystery text. And he has an example, SABR, VDGP, S8, T1814, all those things there.
It goes on and on. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Jeffrey Powers, can you help?
Yeah, there's a lot of codes in there, and it will change depending on how you have your how you're going through YouTube. I'll show you it really quick. I zoomed in on one of the videos that I do. Basically, SABR is segmented adaptive bit rate. So basically, it creates segments, and then it figures out what the video quality of that segment, so it can adjust for there. We've got the S. S is basically how it's playing. If it's playing, if it's paused. If it's paused, you'll see a 4 there. If it's playing, you'll see an 8 or 9. If you skip forward through, doing the 10-second skip forward, it'll go to like 19 or 24. There's several different codes from there. The T is time in seconds. B is buffer, how much you're buffering. So if you hit the pause button on the video, you'll actually see that continue, so it builds up more of the buffer. If you've got an L there, that means that this is a live video. So if you do the Stats for Nerds from this Q&A right now as we're doing it, you'll see a live option. PL is the playlist index, and PBS is playback buffer size. So, and once again, all of this stuff changes. There are going to be other codes that show up there depending on what you have and how you're using it. So,
I wonder if more people dove into that just because they called it mystery text, and everybody loves solving mysteries. Alexander's with us. So, Alexander, dive in. Next question.
Next question is from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. Preferred over the baskets of fruits first used to balance color. Live models offered true skin tones. They sat for hours under the lights during the adjustments on each of the tube cameras in the studios. How long should this take today with CCDs?
Alex, Lindsay.
We still often use live models. So we I don't know if we use them to tune the cameras themselves, but we definitely tune lighting, to tune the look and feel of a given shot. If you've got a budget to do it, we will almost always put actors in where we're gonna do our shows. That is a pretty common approach for us, and we try to find the actors that have the same complexion, the same height. When we talk to casting agencies, so we'll just talk to a casting agency in New York or LA or whatever, and say, I'm looking for these. And we'll just give them, and it's based on who's going to be in our show. Then we have them all sitting around and they're talking. In the best case, you hire comedians. That's the sexy secret, by the way, because they make everybody. It's much more enjoyable. They all sit there and riff off of each other and start saying funny things. You tell them what the subject matter is, and they'll just make stuff up. So they're very good at that. They think on their feet. They can get the crew laughing so hard that they're not getting any work done, but that's a whole nother problem. It's a better problem than them being really low key, because you actually are testing. Oftentimes we're testing the mics, the lighting, the run of show. All of these things are done with the actors that are there, and what that means, and the reason we do that a lot of times is because for the shows that we work on, we have real actors that are about to show up, and so we're going to get them for minutes, maybe less than a minute, and so everything else has to be known to us, and everything exactly, all the bits and pieces, because we're not going to get a chance to prep. So when that matters, you oftentimes have models or actors in place just to let you mock out everything that you need to mock out before the actual VIP show up.
Next question.
This question is from the QR code Anawahi Black Bear Marshall in Oahe. Audio stream question written last night for Extra Hours. People who listen only to show are said to be biggest number live audience here. How are these people supposed to connect to the show? What missing piece in tech is needed to overcome this gap?
Alex Lindsay's going to address this. Alex?
YouTube. You can listen to it on YouTube. We put a lot of infrastructure into the morning show. The evening shows, if we required them to do everything the morning show did, that none of them would get done. So what you need to know is that the evening shows and the weekend shows are going to work differently than the 5 days a week of the morning show. I'm not going to promise anything else. So you just need to know that if you want to listen to it, then put it on YouTube on some screen and then walk away and you'll hear it. So, but whether we have, we definitely want to put in audio on our own, but that would require more resources that we don't have right now. So that's so you'll need to use YouTube for that.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What are some resources, books, websites, courses that you would recommend for people who want to learn more about video production?
Alex Lindsay, you want to give them some help?
I would like to use our favorite answer. It depends. We have to decide what you want to create. There's so many versions of video production that I don't know if there's any specific one that would make the most sense. I think that there's obviously a wide variety of folks out there that are talking about video. Brandon Goodyear, who is he's on our show every once in a while. He's doing his own podcast that he's starting up. We've got there's obviously Gerald Undone. We have Potato Jet. We have people showing you a variety of different tools that they're using and talking about those. There's lots of them. And I think YouTube is probably for me the most useful at this point. Is a lot of times I'll just see things going by and I'll watch a lot of them as far as how they're broken down. But I would probably focus more on YouTubers than probably almost anything else at this point.
Jeffrey Powers.
So I'm more of a visual learner than I am a book learner. And with that said, that I usually I love to go through YouTube stuff and see how that's being used. A couple weeks ago, we talked about a video that Marcus Brownlee put out in his production company on how they make YouTube videos. Mr. Beast is actually it was Mr. Beast, it was Marcus, but they both have how-tos on how they put production together, and it can be an ever-changing thing, especially if you're going from video to 360 video to stereoscopic video to spatial video now coming. So there's going to be a lot of change on there. But as for books, I read a lot of the how-tos, the for dummy books, mostly because I knew the authors, but also because there's a lot of tell it to me like I'm in fifth grade type explanations to it.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, and I would kind of back that up with I would watch a lot of YouTube. Cinema, by the way, Cinema Sticks is my new one that I'm enjoying a lot because they just kind of break down how people are using cameras and film. But I would look at a variety of these videos, and then I have to admit that I spend a lot of time with ChatGPT open when I'm learning some new camera or something like that. Well, how do I do this? And what do I do this? And where is this button? And how is it like? And I learn very quickly rather than reading through the manual. And sometimes I upload the manuals to a variety of the AI tools, and then I just ask the manual questions, and it's much faster than trying to figure out where it was. And so I think that you can use a lot of those things, but you have to decide what you're trying to make. The most important thing is to make things. So get a video camera, go out and shoot. You can start with your phone, but get a video camera. And you've already done some of this, Paul. But do things and do things and use them to learn. And one of the things that you want to think about is the more important than doing your own things is doing them for other people. So you can volunteer for another organization. You can I volunteered on Wednesday night for my daughter. My daughter she's in a couple rock bands, and their high school has this rock band thing at a local bar, and the bands get up and play 2 or 3 songs each. And they didn't have anyone to record video. So I said, sure. And so what I did is I went up and I brought a Blackmagic 6K camera. I figured out how to mount it to the side of the wall or to the post. I just brought a bunch of gear and started just kind of making it connect, making it stick. And then figured that out. I got my Bluetooth figured out with I haven't used it for years on that camera, but I got it working. I took my iPhone and I did all the handheld shots with that. So I had the Blackmagic capturing it. I mean, this is like a 0 budget, 1 hour setup kind of thing. So I just went in and just kind of made that happen. Wasn't perfect. There was definitely things that I would do differently next time, but I learned a lot about how I can use my how I can do the kind of interactive zooming and everything else while I'm moving in my phone. And so I learned a bunch of things about the iPhone that I would not use normally. I don't have a reason to use them at home, and I would never use it at work. So I learned a bunch of things by volunteering a couple hours for my daughter's high school to do that thing. So I still do that a couple times a month, usually something. I'm doing something that I'm not getting paid for. I'm just trying to figure it out. And I would highly recommend that. And the other thing is do it for other people, though, because they have different requirements. Like they say, oh, but I want it to be this way, or I want it to be that way. And it's a pain. But what it does is it requires you to step over things that you would normally just go, well, I'm not going to do that because it's hard. It's easy for people to just not do those things because they're hard and get around them. And so I would highly recommend going out and doing things for other people, going out and shooting. And then while you're doing that, whether it's the Notes app or a little tablet, a little Moleskin, notepad or whatever, just write down questions. I don't understand why this doesn't work. How should I have done this? How should I have done this? You write those questions down, and you already ask a lot of questions for us, but they'll be very focused if you start to do that and ask questions around the things that pop up, and you'll find that you learn pretty quickly.
Don't forget, this entire show is run off of your questions, so we love your questions. And as much as we love your questions, we love your vote on the questions because that helps us figure out what our priorities are every day during this show. So if you'd like to get involved in that system, go to officehours.global/join. We'll send you an email, and once you've kind of signed up, you can get into the Mukana backend system, which means that live during the show, you can not only look at the questions that are coming up, but you can vote on them and help determine the run of show that way. So again, that's officehours.global/join. That'll get you into Mukana, and you can become a little closer part of the show. Next question.
This one's from the QR code. David Ragsdale in Wilmington, Massachusetts. I wanted to try in-ear monitors and got custom molds from an audiologist. I then got custom monitors from Alclair, listening passively. They sound great, but when I speak, I hear my voice echoing loudly in my head. Is there any way to prevent this?
Alexander Knight's going to start you out. Alexander?
So I've been using in-ear monitors for quite a few years now. I've never experienced an echo of my own sound. So it sounds to me like maybe what you're getting is latency, and it sounds like we don't have quite all the information as to what exactly or how you're using these. So if you are plugging these into a wireless system, probably would be helpful for us to know what wireless system you're using with any reasonably priced UHF-based wireless system, all the modern digital stuff. You shouldn't get any discernible latency. Even something like a Shure PSM300, which is reasonably priced, or Sennheiser G4, or even the Sennheiser XSW stuff, which is pretty inexpensive for what it is. I've tested all those. I've never heard my own voice echo back to me in my head. So there's something in your signal chain that is happening here.
Alex Lindsay.
Mickey said that it's a natural effect of isolating your ears from the acoustic sound of the environment and only hearing yourself through your bones, feeling the side tone in your mic, or adding a room mic to your monitor mix may help. And that could be the case. I do lean towards Alex's description, is that I think that most likely you have some kind of latency in there. So I think the echo, I don't think he means echo, but as Mickey said, now you will hear it differently. I can't, as someone who's been listening to my own voice for a very long time now, that I can't hear what you're talking about anymore. I mean, it's all merged together in my brain, and it may just be something you have to get used to. But if you have any latency at all, there's something wrong, and you can't really. I will say, listening to yourself, you have to have high quality wireless equipment to be able to hear it. If you're listening to like Bluetooth or something like that, it's going to be too much latency, and you'll definitely hear an echo.
Jeffrey Powers, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, the more that you seal up your ears, the better chance of this echo to happen. I had to, as Alex said, I've been wearing headphones for so long that I don't hear it anymore. So it's something that I got used to as well. But one thing that I'm doing right now is I have one earpiece in on this side and then nothing on this side. So give it a try. Go do half of it. Maybe, I know you just spent money to create in-ears, but just pull it out just a little bit. See if there's any type of lubricant that you can put onto those ears. Talk to the audiologist to see if that helps, because the different types of silicone that they use for those things can also help be part of the problem. So lubricating might be a good answer from there.
Next question.
Another QR code question from Abraham Barrera in Flowery Branch, Georgia. Looking into buying an Apple Studio display, but noticed it was released in 2022. Will there be a new model this year, or should I just buy one that's being offered at the moment? Also looking at the refurbished model from Apple.
Alex Lindsay.
The tendency is, well, first of all, you always wait until you absolutely have to have something, and then you buy it. And then don't feel bad about it because it'll be what it is. But I would say outside of that, the general time when Apple announces monitors is between now and June 15th. So if you're going to buy one, the best thing to do would probably be wait until June 15th. Once you get to June 15th, and this is after WWDC, the chances of them releasing another monitor for the next 6 months is very low. It's not zero, but it's very low that they would release a monitor outside of that time frame. If you look statistically in their history of announcements, that'd probably be the thing. So I probably wait at this point. I would consider myself in the tractor beam of WWDC. I'm not going to buy any hardware that I don't have to buy. You should never buy hardware you don't have to buy, but in this case especially, I'd probably wait if it's not burning. You absolutely have to have a new monitor right now. I'd wait until June 15th and then I'd buy something, and I wouldn't feel bad about it.
I'd support that thought. I will say that I wouldn't hold my breath for a new monitor. And the reason I say that is because think of all the displays that Apple has to source. I mean, obviously the phone displays and the iPad displays and the laptop displays and the iMac, they're a massive consumer, the company itself, of display technology from around the world. The least selling one of all the displays is undoubtedly the Studio display, because there's only a relatively small group at the top who wants that. Now, they make a very, very fine display. I mean, they put a lot of research and development and quality into that, but it's a low margin, or maybe high margin, but it's still a low sales product. Doesn't contribute much to the bottom line. So unless they think there's something missing they can put into it, I wouldn't be surprised if they left it as the top tier choice for the Apple ecosystem for a while yet. Their displays are excellent, and they can be very costly if you get the non-glare and the rest of the coating stuff. But I wouldn't hold my breath for a lot of quick revs like with the other displays for all the models that sell in millions. Next question.
Alex Lindsay in Nevada, California, USA is asking, did anyone else see the red Nikon announcement?
Alex Lindsay, what did they announce today?
Well, as we know that Nikon owns Red now, and so they Brandon Goodyear, he's working on a project. He wasn't able to be on the show this morning, but said, hey, by the way, did you see this? And so this just happened just before it was announced last night, I think late last night. And this is new mounts for the Red. So this is basically these are these are V-Raptor and Komodo X Z-mount cinema cameras are now compatible. Or the cameras are not compatible with the Nikon Z mount. So we don't know a ton about it right now, but what it does, there's a mount. These are Z mounts that will, I think you have to take your camera in or go to an authorized reseller to have them rebuild that mount for you. But you're going to be able to put those Nikons on, and we think the theory is that your autofocus is going to work way better. so with the Nikon than what was there in the past. So it will be interesting to see what happens out of there, but we're starting to see the R&D that has been going into the merger between Nikon and Red. So we'll keep you up to date, and if someone has one, we'll try to have them use it, and we'll see how it goes.
Let's move to the next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, has anyone had positive experiences with the noise cancellation of the AirPods 4?
Alexander Knight.
So I didn't buy the AirPods 4. I did buy the new AirPods Pro, which, as far as I know, have similar technology. Now, I came from the original AirPods Pro, and I can tell you, going from the original to the current generation, massive, massive improvement in the way noise cancellation is handled. Of course, also adaptive audio, which is a really nice feature. I'm not sure if the adaptive audio feature made it to the cheaper AirPods 4, But if you want really good noise cancellation, I imagine the AirPods 4 are probably going to suit you well, especially if you came from an older model.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What are some innovative new tripods, stabilizers, gimbals, or other support gear that are enhancing camera stability and movement?
Alex Lindsay.
Right now I would say that still DJI is the one that has been doing the most innovation with the Ronin, the various Ronin tools that they have as far as stabilization goes. So I think that that's where I look the most, and across the entire board. The other one that I would look at is the Insta360's flow units. I know that a couple of people here have gotten them. I haven't had a chance to test them yet, but they look pretty amazing as far as the type of tracking and stabilization that's there. Then the other thing that a lot of us are watching are drones. So, a lot of the DJI drones and other drones, but specifically the DJI ones, all the follow-throughs and watching people and everything else, I think really dramatically changes the way we think about coverage and makes it harder and harder, I think, for broadcasters to compete with what an average person can throw in their backpack and go on a trip with. And I think that you're going to continue to see that content get better and better.
Yeah, just to add on to that a little bit, when I was coming up in the business, it was really hard to get your hands on the high-end equipment, the Alclair and O'Connor tripods and things like that, because they were hugely expensive. Now there is so much action in the smaller types of rigs for camera support that there's a ton of knockoffs out there as well. Now, I'm not suggesting you should go with a knockoff, but I'm saying if you're a young person starting in the business and you want to learn some of the physical and out in the field skills of using these tools, you can find things like sliders and gimbals and things like that at very affordable cost. They will not be as good as the top-end stuff at all, but they will allow you to start to learn to use the tools. And if you get good with one of the lesser expensive models, then stepping into one of the more professional rigs will become easier because you'll already have some of the physical skills of operation. So I just think it's a golden age for all sorts of things. I'm surprised. My carbon fiber small backpacking tripod is way better than anything I had in the first 8 years of my career when I was buying inexpensive aluminum tripods that honestly were junk compared to what they are today. So it is a nice era, and you should be able to have some fun with some great stuff out there. Next question.
Jack Cannon, Phoenix, Arizona, USA. What are your favorite ways to design mats for vMix? I have to build a graphics package for an upcoming hybrid event and need to adhere to branding guidelines.
Jeffrey Powers.
Photoshop, simply. You can do a lot of the other things, and you can definitely go out there and look for something that you can purchase that they have already taken all the time. If you're going for specific colors, branding colors from the company, you'll definitely want to get into Photoshop and use their color tools to make sure that because I've worked with companies where I put out video and they come back and they say it's the wrong color. It's like, then I can turn around and show them this is actually the right color. They were watching it in QuickTime. QuickTime had a issue with colors, and so they saw it a little bit more yellow than anything, which was that. So you come back with that. So, but Photoshop on there, and of course, I'm assuming you're talking about the virtual setups and not a mat, because then we'd be talking green screens. Are they doing green screens? Are they doing alpha channel on there? And these are things that you do have to wonder how they're bringing their video in for that to help with the quality of the overall mat, because some people have big heads in screens, some people have small heads in screens, for example. So that's where I would go first.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, Photoshop's a solid solution for putting a lot of these things together. My favorite one for most of the things that I do, that starts oftentimes in Keynote. Now, if you're not using a Mac, it probably won't make it the same. But Keynote will output images and videos with alpha channels. And so as a result, I'll not do knockout mats and do all kinds of other things in Keynote. And it's not that it looks better, it's just that it's way faster. So I had a client that started sending me all these slides, and I opened them. I said, we'll just send the slides over, I'll edit them, expecting a Photoshop file years ago, and it was a Keynote file. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, right, I could just use Keynote for all of this. And so I build many slides that are not highly technical. I still go into Photoshop and build stuff, and I still have things I have to do in Photoshop. But if I'm going to hack things out really quickly, and all the color management tools inside of Keynote will allow you to be accurate with color as well. So you can do that. Photoshop obviously gives you a bunch of other tools that you can use that I've been using for a couple decades. So it's also useful.
By the way, if you have questions you want to put into the show queue, you can also just simply type askofficehours.global into any browser that you have running. It's going to take you to the askofficehours.global question insert space if you want. You can also, if you'd like, use the QR code that I'm throwing up on the screen right now. If you take a shot of that, it'll take you to the same place. So that's the simplest and quickest way to get a question in kind of in real time. Those go in, stay persistently. If we don't get to it today, we'll get to it tomorrow or a coming day. So it's one way that you can put a question into the thing. Make sure your questions are show ready. And by that, we mean concise, well-formed, a simple question, address one question at a time. So even if you're not in the full-scale Mukana system where you can vote on things, this is the simplest and easiest way to get things. AskOfficeHours.global. Next question.
Zach Stahlsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Apologies if this is more of a Sunday question, but is office hours going back to NAB?
Alex, what's your thought on them?
Yeah, we're definitely going to go. Exactly what format it is, it forms in, we don't know yet. We're probably not going to have our own booth. NAB did offer us one, and that wasn't the issue. The infrastructure around it was a pretty heavy lift. So we're going to focus on the wireless. We're going to focus probably very much on our live view. So we'll probably kind of lean more into that. So you'll start to see us do tests over the next couple of weeks, so we're getting kind of that pipeline up and running. It was a little bit of a last minute thing to use. The live view was a little bit more of a last minute thing the last year, but we really want to make sure that we maximize the quality coming out of it. So we're pretty excited about that. So stay tuned. We're definitely going to cover NAB, and exactly the exact format of that is still a work in progress. It will probably be simpler than last year. But we'll see how it goes.
Next question.
Tommy Shanson, St. Paul, Minnesota. My PC shutting down during streams is caused by a kernel-power error. What files and settings do I need to save to transfer to a new PC, Windows World? What do I need to do to keep the process as painless as possible?
Jeffrey Powers is going to try to help you out here. Jeffrey?
Windows is, just like with Mac, they're creating these abilities to allow you to turn on a PC and all of a sudden just put in the ISO and download and install the program, then turn around and say, hey, which computer that's running right now do you want it to copy from there? A lot of people don't like that because then they think that problems will move over at that point. And in some cases, I do agree on that. In some cases, it can be just as easy as making sure that all your files are in OneDrive and that you have a good list of programs that you have, keeping in mind that some of these programs, older programs that haven't had any updates that might have been on Windows 10 or Windows 7 might not update over to the new machine.
Alexander?
So, yes, I mean, you could move everything to a new computer. What I'm kind of concerned with is that we don't really know what is actually the root cause of this problem. And in my experience with Windows, and I don't know what version of Windows you have, but a lot of the times it could be any number of things. Oftentimes it's driver incompatibilities, and I'd be curious to know if you've done any updates. Has Windows even been patched? Because the Windows Insider updates, Microsoft forces those updates on you. You can delay them, but you can't delay them indefinitely unless you have Enterprise Edition. So if any new updates have been installed lately, it can cause problems. Any driver incompatibilities, that can cause a problem as well. Also, you mentioned that this happens during the streams. If it only happens during the streams, remember, you're using an application that's putting a lot of load on your system, so your processor and your GPU. So I would check your CPU usage and seeing is it using more than 60%. And then you may even want to think about, if it's a desktop computer, check and make sure that it's not overheating. Check to make sure the thermal paste is being properly applied. If it's an older machine, you may have a problem there. There's a bunch of things that you can look at.
Alex Lindsay.
My approach in general would be to have a new PC and only install what you need to do your stream, and then run your stream and make sure that if I was doing a brand new machine, I would not want to see it go over 45%. Like that's about where I'd want it to be, 50% at the very max. You don't want to start at the top. You want to, because you'll keep on adding things and doing other things like that. So, but I would only put the software on that you're going to use on that. Like you should, I strongly believe that if you're going to do live streaming, the machine that does it should be treated as an appliance. That's how you don't have things shutting down.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, and as Alexander said, vMix is a big resource. So, and the kernel error is basically hardware, software, or drivers. So you have a choice of everything. Eduardo in the chat suggested to reimage that machine and see what happens. I would highly suggest taking a look at the logs first. If you decide that you want to repair this machine, it might just be too old. And if you're doing more and more, you're bringing in more third-party programs into vMix, plugins for the audio, for the video, then beefing up the machine is definitely going to be the answer. And just as Alex said, keep it as clean as possible.
Next question.
This one's from the QR code Max Schiffman in San Diego. Does anyone have experience using the Zoom plugin with vMix for Zoom webinars? Any issues or tips?
Jeffrey Powers can help you out. Jeffrey?
I played with it last year because we had a thing going. It was actually for a memo, and I ported it over for vMix to see how that all played back and forth. The big thing is the licensing. Otherwise, you're going to be in 360 land rather than nice 1080p video from there. Make sure that you have more than enough bandwidth to handle the streams as you're going. Because once again, as I just said in the last question, this is something that's extra to vMix and will take a lot of resource to handle from there. Audio is going to be an issue. Is the audio going to be per Zoom, or is there some way that somebody is actually mixing all the audio together? So make sure that you don't have anything like open speakers or anything like that as they're going nice isolated audio, and then bring in the mixer to make sure that you're hitting the faders, or if you hit the button to go from person A to person B, that the audio is set perfectly from there. You might have some leveling issues that you'll have to work out from there. And then finally, you have two parts to it. The first one is the individual screen, like this is an individual screen, but then you have things like if you're setting up SuperSource or anything like that, then you'll have to create a virtual input from there. And then how is the audio going to be affected within that virtual input? So a little bit of testing that needs to happen, but it's very manageable.
Next question.
From the QR code, Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada, looking for headphones that sound like the 7506 Sonys, but with better noise cancellation or better seal from outside voices and sounds.
Alexander Knight.
Chester, please, you can do a lot better than the 7506s. For just a little more money, you can get the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. They're very, very comfortable, and they have a very good seal. These are closed-back headphones like the Sonys. You talked about having a good seal, which is what you want. You mentioned noise canceling. I think what you meant is actually just having a good seal. So this is just passive noise attenuation, basically, from the outside world. But these will sound a lot more natural. They are not as hyped in the high end, and they have a lot more low end, which those Sony 7506s don't have, which drives me absolutely crazy. So you may want to go into your local store, see if they have a headphone bar where you can demo these. A lot of music stores that sell headphones for mixing will have a headphone bar where you can demo these. I know my store has these headphones on display, and you can try them out. So if you can get a chance to try these before you buy them and see if you like them, that's what I would suggest. Just be mindful that they do come in different impedances. So you have very low impedance versions and a high impedance version. The lower impedance versions really are designed for devices that don't have a very powerful headphone amplifier. But if you're a musician and you probably have a decent headphone amplifier in your audio interface, I would go with the 250 ohm version.
And Harshid Trivedi.
A while back, I saw Remote Audio had a product out, and what they did is they took the 7506s and put them in ear cups, and it had a really good seal for people that are in production. And then for microphones or comms needs, it used a Bear Dynamic microphone, so I think that could be a good choice for you.
Yeah, I can't remember. At Los Angeles, there's a company who would take aviation headsets, the kind that pilots wear, and they would replace the drivers with 7506 drivers. So they're out there. I can't remember the name of the company in Los Angeles. I should know it. Alex, what's the big sound, the people who do the sound? Location Sound? Location Sound, I think, has them
location.
available.
I think is it Location Sound or? Oh, you're right, Location Sound.
Yeah, Location Sound, I think,
Out of Burbank.
actually sells those for people who are in really high noise environments and who still want to be able to monitor dialogue on sets and things like that. So there's a lot of solutions out there. Hopefully you find something that's worth it, Chester. Thank you for the question. Next question.
This one's from the QR code. Bill Dill in Los Angeles, California. Do you have a FAQ? I don't want to bore you with a repeat question.
And
Repeat?
there's a lot.
How dare you? How dare you repeat a question here in office hours?
Alexander Knight, dive in first.
To my knowledge, there's no FAQ. And as far as I know, we don't mind repeat questions. The beautiful thing about the way this show is put together is that because it's 7 days a week, we have a rotating panelists. So it's not always going to be the same panelists. And the great thing about that is everybody has their own different opinions, different perspectives. And also, we haven't tried all products out there. So sometimes if you ask us, do you have any experience with this product? Maybe we don't this week, but maybe next week we will. And then we'll be able to actually give you a good answer. So I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about office hours.
Alex.
Yeah. Different set of people. Sorry, I was getting ready for another question. Different set of people, different set of questions, different set of answers. It's very rare for you to get the same answer from the same question. so we, whatever mood we're in, things have changed. So I think that for all of us, we're exploring. So I think it's fine. I wouldn't worry about asking something again. We don't remember what you asked yesterday. so we do this every day. If you said what were the 10 best questions or the best question from yesterday, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you a single question that was asked yesterday. We won't remember. We definitely won't give you a hard time about it.
I will say the show topic archives on the website. You can get into the Discord, and Discord has an area where you can search on topics that have been covered on the show. And since you have mentioned, and I see something about sound in that, I can't remember, some of our themed days, like if you were looking for historical stuff about sound recording or something like that, looking at the archives on the Wednesday shows that we've had, and we have a lot of them back there. I mean, we've been doing this for, 1,700 and some odd shows now. You'll be able to get access to the shows where we talked about those specific topics in a little more detail.
But I will say, don't worry about going into the archives. Just ask a question. It'll be different if it was more than 3 weeks old. We'll have a different answer for you. Look, here's the deal. I don't care about the archives. We put them up because people really wanted to have them, and people mostly watch them in the first week so that they can time shift the show. But I will say that there's a lot of discussion about how to dig through the archives and how to look through things 3 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. But I will strongly recommend that everyone listening here, if you have a question, don't look into the past, just ask it again. If you haven't heard it, if you're listening to the show most days and you haven't heard it, ask it again. If you heard it yesterday and you weren't satisfied with the answer, ask it again. Just find a time, you'll start to see it. One of the things that we've done is that we've started to post every day, starting this week actually. Every day you'll see who the panelists are that are, so it goes out. We've delayed the email that goes out so that you can see who's going to be on, and you'll go, oh, okay, well, I can ask that person that question. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I really want to encourage people to not try to dig deep into the past to do it. Listen to the last week. It's all there, but really focus on, if you haven't heard it in the last week, just ask it again. because we'll have a different answer, and we always need questions. See, if you start going through the archive, it undermines our ability to do the show because we need questions every day. Every day we need questions. So if you start going through there and going back there and trying to find that, and then you're not asking the questions today, there won't be anything to find 3 weeks from now. So anyway, so you gotta do that.
On a practical matter, too, my answers from last year are nowhere near as good because I've been learning from everybody on the panels.
We learn every day.
Constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody can said, that was a stupid answer, and they'll ping me off a thing and go, next time you answer that, understand this, and I get better. Hopefully we all do that. This is a growing process. Jeffrey Powers, you had a comment you wanted to make?
So, yeah, I completely agree on that. There's a lot of different things, a program or a hardware. We could have answered a question on one of them, and all of a sudden they put out a firmware update, and all of a sudden everything changed. But there is a way to do it, and it's really quick. If you go to the YouTube page, there's a search within the YouTube page, not on the top, but you have to go right underneath the image, and there you'll see a little search, and all you have to do is start typing in keywords in there. It's going to pull up shows from Office Hours Global that has those words in there, and every day we put the questions into each of the videos, so that's where the keywords are going to be coming from. You might be able to find it. It's going to be hit or miss, though. And once again, it might not satisfy your answer, but it might also help you spark new parts of the question that you can ask us.
I would consider anything older than 2 weeks to be irrelevant. It's we put them up so that people are happy and people don't complain about it. Otherwise, they have to listen to people complaining. It doesn't cost me anything to leave them up on YouTube. But everything, I wouldn't worry about anything after 2 weeks. It's very important. Like the current week is useful, and 2 weeks ago was useful. But after that, just ask the question again.
And for God's sakes, don't go back 3 years and notice how I looked then compared to now.
Please, sound. I mean,
don't go back.
We've made progress.
We have lots of progress. Next question.
This one's from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. What is to be learned from watching a 12K URSA grading session? He's got a link to YouTube there.
Now, there's always things to be learned. Alex Lindsay, what would be your topic?
I will underline that the way we learn is that we watch, we ask questions, we ask questions, we repeat. That is the way that the human being has learned for the last million years. So watching other people do something, and the only thing that's missing here is letting him do it live. If we can ask him questions, it'd be great to bring him on. Maybe we'll see if we can get Darren to jump on. He's got a lot of followers. It might be hard, but we'll maybe give it a shot. But this is him breaking down, going through a 12K scene, and it really is watching someone who does this every day and watching them kind of build up their node structure and do the color correction and talk about how they approach it is gold. So you should. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I have watched it. It's been saved for a while, and I've been watching little bits of it. It's long. I'm not used to watching anything more than 6 or 8 minutes, and so it's been a little bit of a like, oh, okay, well, I'll have to get back to that. But it's really good. And it really shows you how a professional approaches resolve. I would highly recommend it. But I think that the next step is trying to get him on or other resolve experts on, some colorists. And one of the things to do when we know that that's going to happen is to watch it and write down questions that pop up in your head, and then be able to look through that.
Next question.
This one's from Talalik Lopez Waterman in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay, really nerdy question involving math. What smoothing algorithm have you used? Exponential, moving average, Gaussian, that's a tough one. I can't say that. I'm sorry. This is for data from an encoder that gives position data, and that data is then used to video map on scenery.
Alex?
Butterworth. It's all about the Butterworth. Do a research. You're looking for the Butterworth filter. So what the Butterworth filter will do is you've got, I'm assuming when you say encoder, you're not talking about video encoder, you're talking about data encoder. So this is something that's pulling it in. And what happens, we use the Butterworth filter in Motion Builder, or in motion capture, where you're getting little positional data that is not, it's kind of like this, but we know that it's not that way. And as the Butterworth will allow you to build that curve, and make that work, and it's pretty adjustable, and it's been around for a very long time. So I don't, maybe it's not the most current one, but that's the one we've used, and it was very common for us to say, well, just throw a little Butterworth on that. And it got shortened oftentimes to just throw a little butter on that, and we'll tighten that up. So look for a Butterworth filter.
If you value what we do here, there are a couple of ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can volunteer at officehours.global/volunteer and become part of the team that makes all this possible. You'll learn a lot, meet a lot of incredibly nice people, incredibly smart people too. Or you can donate at officehours.global/donate. We're a 501c3, so consult your CPA or whatever, and that's how you can help. Next question.
From the QR code, Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada. What kind or type of battery and memory card should I use for my Mix Pre 3? I want to go outside for a while and record.
Alex?
Yeah, there's a lot of good. I mean, they're pretty. I would say that recording, Angelbird is a good one to look for. I actually have SanDisks. I'm not a big fan of the SSDs, but I have a variety of SanDisk little disks. They're inexpensive and you can pop them in. So anyway, I think that those are there. I don't know of a time when I've had a SD card on a sound devices. I'm jinxing myself here. But I just haven't had a time when it didn't record. like there was something wrong with a relatively new one that I bought. I have had ones that someone else gave me that have failed because they did something weird with it. The first thing you do with any of these discs is, number one, is you should only use SD cards that you bought. Don't take other people's SD cards. Number two is you do want them to be the fastest SD cards you can get. Compared to video, audio doesn't write very fast. so it's not that big of a deal. Now on this Mix Pre, what I have is the sound devices. There's another company that makes this, and Sound Device I think rebrands it. I think that Mickey will probably tell me if I talk long enough about which one that is. I can never remember what it is, but this is the Sound Devices one, and this is a power module that goes into the back where the battery goes. And so this allows you to have a 4-pin Hiroshi. Hawkwoods makes this for Sound Devices. So this is a little battery pack that just pops into the battery pack. Now you have a Hiroshi connection, and you can use bigger batteries. so to me, that's the way that when I'm going out into the field, that tends to be the way I want to do it. Thanks, Mickey, for that. Hawkwoods is there, and it's rebranded by Sound Devices, but I get it from Sound Devices because that's what I buy. But you can get it from Hawkwoods as well. Mickey said he uses eSmart batteries from Inspired Energy and SD cards from Sound Devices and Delkin devices, so there you go. There. One thing I will tell you is if you take AA batteries, there is a battery pack that you can put on the back of these. And if you those eSmart batteries, but if you put AA batteries, and know that it will burn. And when I say burn, like a wildfire, it will burn through these batteries. It'll burn through your batteries at a level that is hard to imagine. So AA batteries can be done. I usually use them as a backup, but it'll just eat them up. And then the other thing is that you can get power from the USB-C. So make sure that you've got a relatively good one. But you can take one of the small rig 99 V99s and take the USB-C out and plug it right into the USB-C here, and you're off to the races. So there's a couple different ways that you can get power to it. But my favorite is this little battery pack on the back that you can convert, and then everything just kind of works there.
Next question.
Kyle Hammond in Chicago, Illinois, U.S. Need a recommendation for a decent under $500 camera that will quickly or locally record a small size file for a quick turnaround of an interview.
Alexander Knight, start us out.
So if someone's paying you to do this job, that's a pretty tight budget. I would suggest you just go and rent it. Find your local rental house and get a decent camera. You'd probably be looking at something like a mirrorless camera, and you'll want to get a decent lens, because to buy a camera, so let's say a mirrorless camera for under $500, you're probably going to be looking at the used market to buy the body and the lens. That's going to be really difficult. I would much rather just rent the camera if you want a professional looking video. Again, I don't know what the requirements are, what the needs are. If this isn't a super important thing, maybe you don't do this every day. Another thing is if you have a reasonably recent smartphone, like an iPhone 16, 15, 14, you could just put that on a tripod, and with good lighting, and if you know how to frame people properly, you probably would get pretty good results, especially with the iPhones, the fact that you can record Apple ProRes, although that'll be a much larger file size. You can record HEVC, which will still give you a good image and a pretty small file size as well.
Jeffrey Powers?
Yeah, it really depends on what you're going to be doing with this film and how you need to record it. There are many different solutions that are 500 or other. If you're doing a live stream to record, if you're just doing a straight up record, and like if this is like a man on the street type video that goes into a larger video, then you might want to look at some of the smaller stuff like the DJI Pocket. The Pocket 3 I think runs around the $500 mark, but the Pocket 2 is still a very viable solution, and you could basically pull the files off by connecting up to the device and then letting the app pull it from there instead of going in and pulling the card out. DJI also makes the action cameras that are very, very useful, and those are under $500. GoPro has these, and the one thing I do like about the GoPros is they have the media mods to them, so you can just point and shoot from there. And I'll sell you, this is a 9. I'll sell you this one if you want it, because I am thinking of getting rid of it. But other than that, if you want to get a little bit more fancy, OBSBot has a few different options, and the Tail Air is a fun one that I use on a regular basis, because then it gives me the ability to do a little bit of PTZ action. You record it right onto the camera, and then you can, once again, you can pull it onto your phone and send it out. And then, of course, as Alexander said, any type of phone from the iPhone 12 all the way up to the iPhone 16 would be good video for you to use.
Alex, real quick.
Mickey suggested the A7 S2, like a used one, 2 or 3, would give you a good, and I think a solid ZV-E10 as well. So those might be some things to look at. I'd also just think about how often am I going to use this camera? And if I'm not going to use it often, I would think about renting a camera as opposed to using it. You can go to Borrow Lenses or Lens Rental or whatever, whoever owns who right now, and rent something for that same price or less and get a much more camera for the same price if you're not going to use it very often.
I'd also recommend just make sure your workflow is solid. If you've got a quick turnaround, the thing that's always killed me is if I get a camera and I'm shooting in a format that my system is not absolutely 100% locked down to, then suddenly I'm transcoding and I'm eating up time and it's a pain in the butt. Even the most clean recording is going to need top and tailing and a few other things. So make sure that you can get it into your NLE and your laptop and get something turned around fast and out to your client. That'll make them happy. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Newton, Georgia is asking, my wife retired in December. Her job provided a Windows laptop. I got her a MacBook Air M3. What Mac apps should she embrace as a first-time Mac user?
Alexander Knight.
Anytime somebody switches to a new operating system, new platform, new way of working, I usually recommend that you just stick with the stock apps. In fact, I actually used to be a Windows user originally. And when I moved to Mac, I just really spent the time just using the stock apps and just got used to, you want to acclimate to the way things work because everything's different. In Windows, that you got the taskbar at the bottom. On the Mac, it's right up at the very top. So everything's completely different in it. So that's what I would suggest. Just use the stock apps. Use the stock mail app. It's quite good enough for what most people do. Apple has their own suite of productivity apps like Pages and Numbers and Keynote, for example. And those are all free. So just use what you have there and then start exploring after, depending on what your needs are and what you actually need to do. Alex Lindsay.
It depends. What does she want to do? What does she do with I would have her make a list of what she did with her laptop before that, and find out what and then we could give you a list of things that we would recommend to replace whatever that was. I think she'll find that if she's not building really complex, big spreadsheets, that Numbers looks a lot nicer. She'll find that Keynote is really nice if she's trying to build any kind of presentations or just images, as I mentioned before. If she wants to lay out something, she'll find that Pages looks a lot nicer than Word. so there's a lot of things that are already there. But figure out what she wants to do. Like, what are the things she's trying to execute, and then we can give you a list of probably software that would be easy and fun to use.
Oh, good. I was hoping we'd get to this next one. Alec, I'm sorry, next question.
Eduardo Augustine in Panama City. How can I batch process green screen photos done for kids at school for their sports cards using Affinity Photo?
Alex Lindsay's going to help you out.
I don't know how to do it with Affinity. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the batch processing tools are there. There are a lot of tools. The interesting thing is that there are tools out there that will let you use AppleScript and other things to just kind of process it, using the person to ask if you see them pop up, and I'll see if I can reach out to him and find out more information. Nick Jushishin has done this thousands and thousands and thousands of times.
Cool.
It's kind of a side business for him. I don't know if it still is, but for years his side business was taking pictures of kids for high school, stuff, so all the entire football team or the entire school or that type. Baseball, I think baseball was a big one for him. The question is, what do you also want to do with those green screen photos? So do you want to put them in front of something? Is it a stock background? If you do, the thing to remember is that the trick, here's the secret to good green screen: light the green screen well. So all your processing works really, really well when you get the green screen very, very even, and then you light the folks that are going to be in front of it separately from the green screen, and you light them well, and you light them in a way that matches them. Do a little extra work to make sure that they're going to match into the background that you're putting them in front of. And if you get that all kind of figured out, many things can batch process it. But I don't know how to do it with Affinity Photo. Photoshop would be a relatively simple process. So if I was doing it with Photoshop, you can set this up in a heartbeat. I'd be able to set it down 15 minutes and we just hit go, and it'll just do all of them. But what's going to make the difference is getting that green screen lighting, getting good green screen, good lighting, get it done right, getting the foreground lit well, and practicing a couple times, and then you should be able to knock it right out.
Hope that helps. We got through most of the questions today. If we didn't for some reason, remember that if you put in a QR code question, it's going to recycle and come back tomorrow for us. If you put it in through Mukana, they're getting sent back to your notes so you can resubmit tomorrow. Thank you all for being here and for helping us make this show possible every day. And specific thanks to the 3 huge constituencies that make this show possible every day, to all the panelists who show up and add their expertise to things. Thank you very, very much. There have been an incredible group of people over the course of the years, incredibly bright and incredibly generous and giving. To our producers, the people who asked the questions to put the show together. Without you, we don't have a show. So thank you for your contributions, your questions, your intelligence in framing your questions, and we will never forget them group in the back end that are hidden behind all sorts of wires and internet. In the crew who produces this show, both live every day, sitting at their computers and doing things like switching the view of the show and monitoring audio and everything else, and the people who are not necessarily on the daily crew, but who help us by handling all the thousands of details that are required to keep this operation running every day. They're all incredibly important. They're all incredibly talented, and we appreciate their donation of time and expertise every single day. Our Talak traversal today, we went 29,000 miles. That's 46,000 kilometers, or 228 million bananas for scale. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Did you know that the world's largest banana, known as the giant Highland banana, grows in the mountain forests in New Guinea, and the banana can get up to 30 centimeters in length?
What does it taste like?
It's taste, not size. Taste. Taste.
Well, it depends on if they're ripe or if they're...
Ooh, an unripe banana at that size? Nightmare.
Yeah. Trying to open it to begin with, yeah.
Be waiting around for making the world's largest banana cream pie.
It can produce up to 300 bananas per bunch.
See y'all tomorrow.
The more you know.